Here we go. We're going to get started. Until everybody else joins us, we are going to return to a brainstorming document that we were working on yesterday. We were brainstorming on tons of fun stuff as far as what goes on inside of Adilas and how we use tools. Tools are very important because we use tools in all sorts of ways. Shannon, what are some ways that we use tools?
For everything. For any kind of project you need done, you have a tool that you use. I don't think there's anything you could literally do in this world that you don't have a tool.
Yeah.
So
that's actually almost what separates humans from animals in some ways, is their use of tools. And so
it's true.
It's good stuff. I can't remember what I called it. Just a minute, I'll find it.
That's right.
Maybe I should look under T's. Tools that we use. Okay, awesome. Well, we started out and we were going to just talk about basic tools, and basically Shannon and I are here just kind of waiting for some people to come and join us, and we're going to just be brainstorming some more. Just to kind of recap, to kind of pull us back up to speed to get the flavor, we started talking about what is your first defense, what is your first tool that you need to use, and we decided that it was your head and your mind. Free and very useful, always on, not limited, imagination, etc., etc. We went through and we were kind of naming some features, advantages, and benefits, and then as we came down, we started talking about limitations and how things different affect your mind and how you break it, and sometimes your physical health and also the volume or the complexity of things can actually break your mind because you just can't keep track of all those little sub pieces and stuff. So then the next thing you do is you go to paper and pencil and you actually start writing things down. And we talked about pros and cons there, kind of limitations and such. And paper and pencil is awesome. It's very flexible. You don't even have to have it structured. You can just scribble it. You can put things wherever you want. But that also becomes part of the problem as well because it's so sporadic and scattered and not organized. Like you could have one piece of paper and it's structured in one way, and the very next piece of paper can be structured completely different. It creates a slight disconnect, if you will, between searchability and how easy it is to use and some of those different things. Well, once we got through paper and pencil, we decided the next thing you need to do is kind of digitize something. You get into a computer-based or a word processing type environment. Lots of new advantages come at this point. You have all the creativity of pen and paper, but eventually it kind of comes down to some skill levels and requirements for electricity and computers and stuff like this. But you are able to search it, print it, send it, collaborate, a whole bunch of other things like that. So then what happened was is we had a guy that was online. His name is Joe, and he wanted to know some stuff about cloud and web. And so instead of going right from word processing, we actually skipped to the next little level. And we actually went clear to web and cloud. However, in real life, what we need to do is we need to kind of just put some new little pieces of the puzzle here. And so, for instance, the next one would probably be spreadsheets. We'll just call that rows and columns. Then the next one after that would actually be databases. And we're gonna kind of do it. I'm just trying to kind of prep it to kind of get it leading up to the web and the cloud interface. Beyond databases, you actually get into software and IT. And IT is information technology. Okay, and then once you pass web and IT, then you actually get into the web and the cloud type thing. So we're going to kind of go backwards a little bit and jump into spreadsheets for a second. Shannon, let's see if we can get started. What are some
features of spreadsheets?
Yep.
Well, one of my favorite features is that it does the math for you. It's great. But you can do calculations, you can, yeah, that's a great function. You can do all sorts of calculations. You can search it, you can organize it, you can hide, you can show, you can color code, you can you can do graphs, you can pull the data off and make graphical interpretations.
Okay, awesome. You could add graphics.
Yeah, you could add graphics.
You can add outlines and borders and stuff like this.
Definitely, definitely you can block in different cells. You can connect things, you can make certain functions show up other places. Various cells equal other cells.
So how would you phrase that exactly? Because I think spreadsheets are awesome. It totally goes beyond the word processing application, right? I would say, oh my goodness, it's just, like,
yeah.
it's awesome, awesome, awesome. Like, how would you say that as far as connecting and, like, it has references in a way, okay? Like,
Yeah, that's probably a good way to say it. Ability to reference.
so that's kind of huge. You're actually starting to kind of pinpoint things and say, oh, I'm only looking here, or I'm only, so you can almost kind of start subdividing in some ways.
Definitely, definitely. I like the look of spreadsheets too, I think, because I just like how structured it is. It's very structured. You don't have to put that.
I think it's great. It's part of it. Okay, what are some other huge advantages of spreadsheets? I think it's already organized, so like it's very easy to just dump things in. You can actually export data from Excel or someone's spreadsheet and pull it into other things because it's already in an organized format. So
Yeah,
you
that
can
is
export.
a huge asset in a lot of different programs.
Okay, we use it constantly for even inside of our program to export, or when we get data from external people, we say, just give me an Excel spreadsheet and I'll pull it in because I can then pull that in and map it to different places and pieces.
Yeah, yeah, that's great.
Cool. So let's talk really quick about limitations for spreadsheets. Okay, it maxes out at a certain
Yeah, I was
level.
going to say again, volume. It's not able to handle so much. It's also not able to, just when we work with spreadsheets at the place I'm working at currently, it's not able to store or tell you what was there. Like once it's erased, it's gone.
Okay.
Basically, no history. Yeah, exactly. No historical ability. You still have to. It does have such great organization capacities, but there's no question you still have to organize it or figure out how to set up your calculations or how to. I mean, there is still a skill level involved with that one.
Oh, I'd say that you definitely have to have a higher skill level. So that's actually one of the limitations.
Yeah.
Okay. What else is a possible limitation with? You can't really relate things. Everything has to carry the same weight.
Yeah,
so like column A is column A all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah.
You can't be like, I need you to be column A from here to here and then flip.
And then you have to switch it to
or
something else.
different sizes. Like you're very limited to those
that's
quadrants. So how would you phrase that exactly?
Not as versatile, or I mean, I guess you could say maybe rows and columns lack versatility. Yeah, limited to rows and columns, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that also happens is you can use an Excel spreadsheet or a spreadsheet like a poor man's database, but it really doesn't get into the object level where you have flexibility to have one-to-many relationships and all kinds of stuff. You can do virtual lookups on different pieces, but it's very tedious. Like it has to all be super connected and
Yeah.
like. Okay, here's a
There is
possible
an
limitation.
inability to flex.
It's not centralized. Usually
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
on your machine.
That's definitely true. And I think that other one was a good point. It's inability to be as flexible.
Yeah, like you can't really do objects because like, say for instance an invoice that has the main invoice details and then say you have a bunch of line items. Well, how many line items are you going to allow?
Yeah.
You have to virtually plug that in because all your formulas then have to work off of that number. So if you have one that has one line item, it still has to have all those extra rows and columns. And what if you had one that had 100? Or what if you had one that had 1,000? Like, at what point do you say is, like, what's your standard? And so sometimes you actually limit yourself because you're like, I'm only going to code it to 20 places out, but then every single record has to hold all 20 pieces in order for it to really flow through the rest of the puzzle. So it almost gets big in a way, just because.
Yeah.
How would you explain that? Like, just it's kind of static in a way, in some ways. Like as far as
Yeah.
your layout is static. Your layout can't flex. Okay.
Yeah, and I would almost say it's static for variables, like for different things. If everything's the same, then you're pretty much okay, right?
Uh-huh.
But as soon as things are different, then it becomes more difficult.
Okay. Awesome. Great. So let's talk. How do you kill a spreadsheet? So basically, how do you break it?
So volume was one. There just gets to the point where it can't hold anymore.
Okay. You start getting so many pieces separated, like it gets overwhelming almost. Because
Definitely.
imagine if you had 100 tabs, thousands of rows, hundreds of columns, and you're trying to find a piece of data in all of that. So it just gets really, like, you have to see the whole thing almost all at once in a way.
Definitely, I thought that same thing. It just doesn't have the search capacity to hold that kind of volume.
Okay, awesome. Great. Any other ways that you could break a spreadsheet?
Well,
okay, so
again, you need
formulas and
fewer
references
yeah.
are huge. You could break a spreadsheet in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just move a thing or like add a column, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, like all of your potential
You have
things.
to retie everything together. Definitely. Definitely. Obviously, it as well requires electricity and software and various things like that. But
Okay.
that's probably most anything that's going to be on the word, or I mean, processing unit. So
Okay. You need a computer. You have to buy the software package. Like, you don't just automatically
right,
get a
exactly.
spreadsheet.
You know.
You actually have, like word processing, every computer, as soon as you get it, you get a standard little text editor. You don't necessarily automatically get
Mm-hmm.
a spreadsheet.
Any kind of spreadsheet. Yeah. Definitely there's a fee and a price.
Okay, great.
I would also say I'm sure it's possible, but I could not imagine doing Excel on a touch screen. I think that would just drive me crazy.
Okay.
But actually, I'm sure it's possible. I'm sure they have it for that. But it definitely seems like that's not the most compatible form because, like you said, even on a computer, when you get a lot of volume and you can't see that much,
Facebook compatible.
imagine having that. IBLE.
Is that Facebook screens or is it?
Yeah, that's correct. There might be some touchscreen users that
Sure.
would.
That's
counter
arguable.
that.
That's sure. But I could see how that could be a little bit interesting.
Yeah,
Like, you have a lot of scrolling sometimes,
definitely.
potentially, and then
Yeah.
when you're searching things, you have to look. You're always faced with a full screen of data.
Yep.
The whole time. So,
Yeah. It's true. Instead of the computer filtering it for you, it's almost that you have to constantly filter it.
which then says, are you going to show rows and headings and columns, or are we just scrolling the whole mess and then you have no clue where you're at? You can get lost very easily.
It's true. I was thinking as well, just because I've seen some ways people use it. Sometimes they'll hide rows or columns once they're done, but the problem is you have no idea it's hidden, and so there's really no way to find that again unless you specifically looked up that item and knew what you had hidden. But after you hide multiple things,
Yeah, you
I don't know, it's not really tracked, it's not really stored anywhere that you can get back to it unless you knew it was there. Because you can unhide everything, but then it's right back in the middle of your stuff and you don't really know what the difference was.
Okay.
So, I don't know, I guess you just, I don't know how you'd say that.
Another thing that I've seen with spreadsheets is if you do make a typo, potentially you could overwrite a complete formula, a complete anything. And like sometimes you can't tell the difference between what's a dynamic value, like a formula, and what's a static value.
Yeah.
So you can overwrite things very easily.
That's very true. Very true.
Is it over, W-R-I-T-E, overwrite?
Yes.
Okay, without saying that, hey, look at all these problems and stuff like this, I think a spreadsheet is a great tool.
Oh, me
It's
too.
huge. So I think that is awesome. Okay, cool. Let's go to databases. Are you fine with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so first off, what is,
It's slow.
what's that?
Oh, I was just saying the GoToMeeting's not catching up with you, but
Okay,
it will eventually, I'm sure.
okay, awesome.
Still haven't, but
Okay, so let's talk features and advantages of databases, because what we're doing is each tool has a place, and we're not trying to say bad, pro, or con, or anything like that. We're going to poke holes in our own product type thing, but like what I think that it would be, what I'd love to do is kind of actually, we're just brainstorming, and so eventually I would like to take some of this stuff, turn it into a flyer. So we're just kind of prepping, and me and you are just batting back and forth, okay? Databases. What is the coolest thing about a database?
I don't know that I necessarily know databases that much from other things, but as you're putting is that unlimited storage structure.
Yeah.
I mean, you could reference and link things and connect them, right?
Yeah, storage in the billions.
Yeah.
Okay, so an Excel spreadsheet maxes out at 14,000 rows. Okay, so if you even talk, hundreds of thousands or millions or billions or multiple billions, like trillions and stuff like this, like all of a sudden you jump to the whole next level. It is the next level. Okay, you can create relationships.
Right.
You can have histories.
Yeah. You can link things and search things and do you do conditional logic in the database?
You can. We use server-side scripting to kind of do that. We use the database as our giant container. We organize the container, and we can have as many as we want, but you only have to see little pieces at a time. You never look at the whole database.
Yeah.
So like, which actually makes it kind of cool, because like you're able to like, imagine having a store and you have all of these items in your shopping lane, but you don't have to necessarily see the cereal and the milk and the ice cream and the pizzas all at one time. You go to a certain spot, or you sit there and you call it back to you. It virtually can, you can tell it to return and report.
Yeah, that's so great.
What's another thing that you can potentially do that's interesting? The flexibility is amazing. So you can actually you can, instead of playing with plain static, you have to have 20 columns to do your invoice. You could be like, how many do you have? And it can flex one to many. So like, you take it into a dynamic level. I'm going to actually put the physical word one to many. That's actually what's kind of called part of your relationships. You can have one-to-one, you can have one-to-many, you can have one-to-many-to-many. Like it's kind of just very scalable. Maybe that's a good word for it. Scalable. Is that how you spell it?
I think there's, well, just my space. Oh yeah,
Anyway.
that works. Great.
Okay, what's another thing that's, okay, as soon as you have a database, ideally there's multiple levels of different databases. Is it a server database, or is it a file share database, or like there's different types, okay? Like you can, okay, so do you understand the difference between a file share database and a server database? It's technical.
No. Is that sharing with?
Okay, so for example, a Microsoft Access database is what's called a file share database. It can only have so many concurrent connections because it tries to hold and maintain those connections the whole time. Okay, and so like you can actually max out an Access database by just saying, instead of having 5 people hit it, if you have 10 or 15 people trying to hit the same database, it doesn't have enough arms or potential processing power because it's trying to hold hands the whole time with all these different things. Okay? A server database basically sits all by itself, and somebody talks to it, and then it just responds, and then it closes back up. So it's constantly severing those ties, but then you have to just talk back and forth to it. Okay, that's what a server database is versus a file share database.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it totally deals with like connections and what are the open connection options, if that makes sense. Okay, awesome. What's another advantage of a database?
I'm sure with it as well, you could do all sorts of calculations, and you could just map and connect all sorts of numbers and things that you need processed in various ways. I'm assuming it does all of that.
Calculations. You can filter things. You can pull back just certain rows. You can query.
Which is basically asking of things, right?
Correct. And that's perfect. Maybe I'll actually put that there. Okay. Another thing that you can do that's very cool with databases is you can loop. So you can give it multiple tasks to do, and it can go because it knows what to do. So like you can play in bulk. So like
multiple tasks.
Multiple tasks. Okay, awesome, great. And thanks for helping me brainstorm on this because it helps me to kind of get some ideas and stuff. Like, these tools are awesome. They provide a function and they do certain things, and so it just kind of depends on what's going on. Do you want to do it? Let's do one more set of features, advantages, and benefits. Okay?
You can access service from anywhere, right? It's not on your computer.
Correct.
So basically,
well, it depends. It
you have
depends.
to have a way to connect to it.
You do have to have a way to connect. That's actually kind of one of the limitations because, like, technically, if we're just talking databases, the first level of databases resides on your computer, and you're just storing and cataloging things. Maybe we should put cataloging things, because that's kind of like a okay. Let's go ahead and go to limitations. One of the limitations is where is this database located at? Is it centralized? Is it on your computer? Is it at your home? Like, it totally depends. So location. And some people just want a database for just their home. Maybe they're just categorizing their videos.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. It's great. That's perfect. That's what an access database or a file share database is meant for. Okay, small beans, small potatoes, if you will, and a node structure, but you're trying to organize it and create something that kind of makes it fun and flow. Okay, what's another limitation of databases? One, you have to be able to connect. Okay, so like server is this. We have electricity. We have computer problems. Anything from here on out, I think we're going to be. You're going to have computer.
Right. You're already dealing with a computer for everything we're doing already. Maybe even a remote server too. I mean, if something happens there and nothing's really wrong on your end, you still can't access it if that server's down or if someone's had a problem. So from either end, potential issues.
Okay, correct. You're introducing multiple variables in a way.
Yeah.
Okay. What are some other potential things that are problems with a database type thing?
What
about
security?
Security.
I don't really know all the ways security works on the database, but
okay. So most databases have a username and password to get into the database, but then potentially you have the database.
yeah, if you know what to do, you can do whatever you want in the database.
Okay, perfect. What else might be a limitation of a database thing? I was thinking that skill level.
Definitely. Familiarity with even databases work.
Like, this actually gets to a people level, like, because like, how easy is it, even though it can store all your data, how easy is it to get it in and out? Like, I also know some databases that you push data in, and that's all it does. It just accepts the data. It's very difficult to get it back out, or there's no functions to kind of get it back out. So you almost have this push-pull type relationship. Like, just because I can store it doesn't mean that that's necessarily going to solve your whole problem.
Yeah, that's true.
Awesome.
Does volume at some point break a database, or most of them, if their server base have the capacity? Well, I guess at some point they have to get in there.
Volume definitely can break a database. And this actually, instead of it being like a physical volume, usually what it is it's traffic volume versus size volume.
Yeah.
Okay. So most databases, if you're playing with a big database or like a robust database,
Uh-huh.
you won't even touch the max capacity, okay? Humans get tired. Computers are like, cool, I got it. I got plenty of memory allocated for that, no problem. How big's your hard drive? How big's your, like, okay, like some of the ones that we play with, they don't even max out until they're into the terabytes of size, okay? And so like you can have tons and tons of data. And because it's all modular, you can make databases modular. Maybe we should add that right up here.
When you're saying modular, what exactly are you
So what I mean by modular is if you have an Excel spreadsheet, you pretty much want everything related to what you're doing on that Excel spreadsheet. Database could have part over here, 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 potentially not even connected at all, but because you don't have to deal with it all at one time, it still can go in a single database. Okay. So how would you say that? Or
ability to, I don't know, individualize or compartmentalize, or I don't know, I guess you could compartmentalize or have connectivity. Is that maybe what you're trying to say? Maybe not what you're trying to say. I don't know.
oh, that actually is a real word.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, another thing that you can do if somebody gets a little happy on a database and starts just deleting things, you can actually break a database by deleting required connecting.
Dropping tables?
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. Dropping links, dropping connections.
Yeah. So dropping information, losing, L-O-S-I-N-G.
Yes, correct.
Losing integrity, like between your connections.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Also, if it's too difficult, like you're getting into complicated things, and so like if it's too difficult, you can technically break the database just by making it too big.
Yeah. Cumbersome ones.
SUM or SUM?
It's that, yeah.
Okay, awesome, great.